6 locals, 6 spots, one mission: find the best cachorrinho in Porto. We rated everything: the cachorrinho, the fries, and the beer, with actual scoring sheets like the very serious professionals we are. So let's figure out exactly where to eat, because spoiler alert, the winner scored a 9.22 out of 10. I'm Bia, I'm from Porto, and if you don't know what the cachorrinho is, let me ruin all other hot dogs for you real quick. A cachorrinho is a Porto's version of a hot dog, so a thin sausage with a spicy sauce in a crispy roll that gets pressed and toasted until it crunches, then cut into slices that you eat by hand. You typically order it with a fino, that's what we call a small draft beer here in the north. In the south it's called Imperial, actually. And a plate of fries, that's the holy trinity. So that's what we are judging here today. Here's how this worked. We were 6 people, me and 5 friends, visiting 6 different spots, walking between them when possible, of course, but if not, take the subway or something else. Very scientific, sort of. So I had planned everything. When everyone arrived at the first spot, I handed each of them a sheet with a grid to rate 3 things at every stop: the cachorrinho, the fino, and the fries. They knew we were eating cachorrinhos and that we were rating them somehow, but they didn't know they were participating in a structured competitive tasting. By the way, the English version of the grid is linked in the description, completely free, with a 1-pager of rules and the full itinerary. So you can do this exact crawl with your friends. You're welcome. A few rules before we start. It is totally okay to share food or drinks, otherwise it would be way too much for a person. We can discuss the scores, but only after everyone finishes their food and scoring, so that there's no influence while we are eating. But of course, at any time you can go back and change a previous score, because sometimes you can only judge when comparing to other similar things. So I think it's fair, but remember this rule. It becomes relevant later. First stop, the dog, near Boa Vista. We got there around 12 p.m. and of course, some friends were late. Once everyone arrived, I revealed the grids, explained the rules, and we ordered the first batch. The verdict? Overall, we enjoyed it. The cachorrinho was a bit spicy, but not too much, which mattered because some of my friends were very sensitive to spice. Some of us thought it was a bit too dry, while others appreciated the crunch. The beer was good, but some people thought it could be a bit colder. That's very important. And the fries were good, but we noticed that the salt wasn't evenly distributed. Some bites were great, but then some were really, meh. And here are the prices for everything. Next stop was just a 15-minute walk away, Alma do Cachorro. And this is where the day got its first main character. The waitress was so funny. She was curious about our sheets and while we were filming, which is fair. So we explained the whole plan and she immediately declared that theirs was the best one, of course, but for sure the cheapest. And we joked that we'd come back for our money if it wasn't. She was such a highlight that one of my friends added an extra column to the grid just to rate the service. But we had to stay professional. We could not let ourselves be influenced by a lovely human being. So, the food. The beer was pretty similar to the dog, maybe a tiny bit better, but everything else was different. The salt on the fries, mwah, near perfection. But unfortunately, the fries themselves were a bit soggy. Not crispy at all. Tragic. They were so close. But the cachorrinho though, spicier than a previous one, which I personally prefer, and the bread was much better. So it was crunchy on the first bite, but then juicy inside. And I guess that's the dream, right? You don't want it to be too dry, but you also don't want it to be too soggy where there's no crunch. This was really nice. A good balance. And the prices, she wasn't lying, it was cheap, but let's see if that holds for the rest of the day. Next up, República do Cachorro. So this was a 35-minute walk and nobody got time for that. So we took the metro from Carolina Michaelis, which is right next to Alma, to Bulhão. 15 chill minutes of walking and metro, totally fine. 2 of our friends actually had bikes, so they just met us there. So you can also do this by bike, although I won't recommend it because of all the beer, but you can do it. it is possible. Now, this place sits in a square full of restaurants and bars called Praça dos Poveiros, very popular with tourists, so sometimes finding a table isn't easy. But we got a table outside next to the door, which was fine. And here we had some highlights and lowlights. The fino was nearly perfect. Chef's kiss, liked it so much. So cold, the right amount of foam, one of the best the whole day. The cachorrinho was also really good, like super juicy, like I said, with a perfect crispy outside. But it wasn't spicy at all, which, you know, like I said previously, I actually preferred, but some of our friends didn't. So if you're like me,
and you like the heat,
just ask and they will bring you some spicy sauce. But I wanted to taste like the original thing, no extras. The fries though, we were unanimous on this one. Not enough salt and the texture was really off-putting, unfortunately. I actually wrote on my grid that they felt a bit like rubber. So mixed feelings overall. But of course, here are the prices. And also, real talk, by this point, the beer was getting to everyone because we weren't just, you know, tasting beer, to be honest. We were having beers while waiting for food, beers while hanging out, after the food. So from here on, things got a bit messy. But let's keep going. Then it was time for the OG Gazela. So a bit of history. Cervejaria Gazela opened in '62, and this is a place that created the cachorrinho that we are eating today. It is the original one. And the original spot had just 13 seats around a half-moon shaped counter. It is right next to the theater, so Teatro Nacional de São João, which is beautiful inside, by the way, in one of the city's most bohemian corners. So it became famous with the art crowd first. And apparently they had gatherings going until the wee hours. Must have been so cool. But eventually the whole city knew Gazela and people would queue just to eat here and chat with a very local and very friendly staff. And to this day, only the current owner, who actually joined the staff at 13 years old, crazy by the way, that wouldn't happen today, and his son-in-law know the recipe for the sauce. They make it themselves every day. Now, with all the tourists that Porto has, it is estimated that they sell over 1,000 cachorrinhos a day. That's so many cachorrinhos, insane. And fun fact, some of the other spots we tested today were allegedly, supposedly opened by people who used to work here, then left to make their own version of cachorrinho. So the question is obvious, is the original still the best, or has the student surpassed the master? Let's find out. We tried to sit at the original Gazela, but with 13 seats inside and a few outside, no chance, especially with such a big group. So we walked past their second location and into their third one, which doesn't even show up on Google Maps. I looked for it while editing and I couldn't find it, but it's right next to the second one. Just look for their logo. You won't miss it. Or just ask the staff in one of the other ones. I'm sure they will point you to the one that is less crowded at the moment. By now, we'd had one too many beers and everyone was very chatty and honestly, peak. Super cool afternoon. But of course, our order arrived and we got to judging because we are very professional here, okay? The fries, nearly perfect. I'd personally add a pinch of salt, but that's not a flaw. I personally like my food very salty. You know, maybe I shouldn't, but it is what it is. The beer was, in my opinion, almost the ideal balance of coldness, foam, bubbles, really good. And the cachorrinho, the spiciest one so far. Huge plus for me. Crunchy, like a lot of them, and very juicy on the inside. I'll say this much, nobody at the table was complaining, but I'm saving their scores for the end. There will be surprises. The prices though, did the buffet make it expensive? A bit. It was slightly pricier than the other ones, but it wasn't a huge difference. I'll leave a full comparison at the end with all the prices, just so you can see. Now, the grid incident. Remember the beers I told you about that we had maybe a bit too many? Well, Two of my friends were distracted, laughing, and they left their greens at Gazela, and they only noticed at our next stop. Luckily, they had just enough beer to forget the sheet, but not enough to forget their ratings. So they actually remember the scores, and since our rules allow changing previous scores anyway, the data survived. Science is safe, but yeah, that's where we are at the moment. In the heart of the city, in one of Porto's most busiest areas, a cachorra. Quick Portuguese lesson with your favorite teacher. Cachorra is the female version of cachorro. And yes, we gender everything in this language, including food, buildings, objects, doesn't matter. Now, this was one of the highlights of the whole day, but not for the reason you might expect. We got a table outside and started chatting with the waitress. She was so funny and so sweet. Mid-conversation, she asked if we wanted to try their new risol, which was francesinha flavored. And look, now that I think about it sober, the idea is a bit off-putting, I won't lie. But with a few beers in us, of course we said yes. Why not? And I'm glad we did, because it was actually really nice. Not a lot of meat, it's more about the francesinha sauce. Very interesting. I would order again. I would like to try this sober. Then the main event arrived. The beer, really nice. Some of us rated them among the best of the day. The cachorrinho, good. Very mild on spice, but the fries, unfortunately, a bit soggy and undersalted. We all agreed that they weren't great, unfortunately. But you know what was great? What happened next? So the waitress came back and casually mentioned that the two people sitting right behind us were the ones that invented the francesinha risol that we just tried. And they heard our whole unfiltered review when we thought nobody was listening. Thank God we liked it. It would be very awkward if we didn't. Imagine. They were so happy we enjoyed it that they offered us a shot and drank with us. Instant friendship, super fun, and honestly, it makes me want to go back just to see them and chat with them. But don't worry, the shot wasn't that strong. Time for our last spot, and what better way to end than at one of my personal favorite places in all of Porto, Guindalense. So Guindalense was actually a football club first, actually. It was founded initially in '76 by a group of friends and neighbors of this neighborhood called Guindais. So they would gather here, and because of the view and the vibe of the whole place, it became really famous. I come here very often, and if you are in Porto, come for the sunset. I prefer it 1,000 times over Jardim do Morro, which is literally across the river. But Jardim do Morro just gets so crowded and noisy, it's really not for me, to be honest. Guindalense can fill up too, but it's another vibe entirely. It's actually in my 3-day Porto itinerary, that it's also free in the description. You can get it, and it has a lot of places that I like and I go to very often. Yeah, it's in the description if you want. Plot twist though, I come here all the time, but I had never tried their food. At first, on camera. But being 6 people this late made finding a table very tricky. But fine, we are here to rate food, not views today. And this was one of the most different spots of the day. First, no table service. So you pick up your own food and drinks, but we knew that already. They only had Príncipe, the bigger 33 centiliter beer, instead of the typical 21 called fino. Doesn't sound like much, but it's very unusual for a Portuguese spot. And after a full day of drinking a big beer was a bit of an overkill, not gonna lie. Second, the fries are completely different from the typical cachorrinho fries, as you can see, but they were really good. One of the best of the day, if not the best. Let's see. The cachorrinho itself was similar to the previous one from Cachorra, which wasn't too spicy. And it was on the drier, crunchier side. A good experience overall, I would say, but was it the best? Time to find out. Let's start with the bonus category, service, as judged by my friend and her improvised extra column. The third place goes to the dog. Very chill, everyone was nice and friendly without being too chatty, which honestly some people might prefer, so totally fine. If that's you, this is a good place for you. Second place is a tie. Gazela and República do Cachorro, actually. Super friendly, happy to chat with customers. Really great vibe. But who's on the first place? Do you have any idea? Yes, it is also a tie. Alma do Cachorro and Cachorra for having two of the nicest waitresses of all time. Congratulations, you two. We love you and we'll give you your prize one day, maybe. Probably not. And now, the real question. Who deserves the glory? The eternal recognition of being the best cachorrinho in Porto. Who do you think it is? In third place, we have also a tie. With 6.96 out of 10. So the dog and Guindalense, both really good, but both with improvement points. The dog had the salt situation on the fries, and Guindalense Cachorro was a bit too dry. But this is near perfection, everyone. They were still very good. But since we love the dog service more, we are giving the bronze medal to the dog. Congratulations! So we are getting closer and closer to perfection. So close to the top with 7.27 out of 10. We have República do Cachorro. Great spot, and honestly, good to know that even in full tourist territory, they've kept the quality. That's really rare, let me tell you. Also, congratulations. And the winner, the best cachorrinho in Porto, goes to the place that blew the competition away by a landslide with an astonishing rating of 9.22 out of 10, Gazela! The OG absolutely wrecked everyone who came after it. And here's the thing, when I described the food earlier, I held back on purpose because I didn't want to spoil this. I wanted you to keep watching. But at the table, it was clear to all six of us the moment that we ate it. We had our winner, near perfection. 63 years later, the original recipe, the sauce only 2 people on earth know how to make, still untouchable. If you come to Porto, go to Gazela. You have to, really. It's so good. I'm getting hungry just by thinking about it. Now that's it for this video. Everything from today is in the description, completely free. So the English version of the rating grid with the rules and the itinerary, so you can do this crawl with your friends, and my full 3-day Porto itinerary, which includes Gazela and Guindalense, plus many other spots that I won't spoil now. Just leave your email and we can stay in touch. No spam, pinky promise. Now, what should we rank next? We were thinking about rissóis. What do you think? What would you like to see? Let me know in the comments. See you in the next one. Bye!